I'm Cheryl Krupe, mom, writer, athlete, and artist. I'm curious about what connects us, and I believe that every person holds something unexpected and beautiful.
I'm Keenan Comer, dad, coach, and realist. I believe we grow by facing hard things, and I've learned the most by listening to people and their stories. Before we roll the episode, we want to tell you about our purpose, and it's this.
There is something extraordinary about everyone. I once heard a friend share that walking in the woods, she wondered if she'd rather be a tree or a squirrel. That made me look at everyone and think, what's your thing? What's your story?
And my dream for this podcast is that when you hear a story, you feel a kinship, whether it's someone you'd easily chat with in a coffee shop or someone you'd never normally approach. I hope that little by little, we build trust.
People are compelling, not as demographics, but as individuals. Everyone has a story.
And it doesn't have to be someone famous. Some of the best stories come from people you'd never be able to Google, like the Cuban trumpet player I met in a park. Just a guy with a powerful story.
That's what the Four is about. Finding those sparks, sharing them, and remembering that connection is always possible.
Please enjoy the podcast.
Welcome, Fora listeners. I'm Cheryl Krupe, and I'm here with my co-host, Keenan Comer, and Drew Foster, coach, animal lover, and martial artist, but maybe not in the way you would immediately think of.
How's it going, Drew?
Hey, how are you all doing today?
Great.
Doing great. Why don't you tell us where you're from? What's the origin story?
I was born in New York City, did not live there long enough to remember anything. I grew up in Durham, North Carolina, lived there for all the way through high school, went to college out at the beach in Wilmington, North Carolina, had a career job out there for a little while, and I've been back in Durham since the summer of 2022, and I coach full-time at Elevate MMA. I coach jiu-jitsu, submission grappling, and I do like 64 classes a month, and I really love it, and it's super awesome.
For reference, like how many classes do you think the average coach coaches?
I think the average full-time coach probably doesn't do more than 10 to 12 a week. Yeah.
And so 64 a month is like how many a week?
16 a week.
16 a week? That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I'm honestly hoping to do a little bit less. But yeah, for a few circumstances, I'm just at a high number right now. But it could be way worse.
Okay. Yeah. I'm interested to know how it would be way worse, but I'm actually more interested in how you got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because it's a very big part of your life. It's your career, but tell us how you got into it.
I always, for sport stuff, I've always done like some kind of martial arts here or there for the most part, about as long as I can remember. And then in my college years, I ended up in treatment for a month. And after that, I was just looking for healthy things I could do with my time besides just sitting around. And there was a jiu-jitsu place on the beach at Wrightsville Beach. It was literally on the beach. It was above this bar called Jerry Allen's. It was called Evolution MMA. And I ended up going there, and I really just got more and more into it every year. I just started liking it more and more, and just kind of put a lot of my time and energy into that. And then I kind of knew from an early-ish time into it, after a couple years in, I knew that I wanted to teach and coach and do stuff with it professionally at some point. But I just knew that it would be a while before I was at a skill level and a place where I had the ability to do that. But I've always kind of wanted to do something with it pretty much ever since I started.
So there's already a lot of things that we want to talk about as far as your coaching, your call to coaching, what treatment was like, and how that affected your outlook. But before we get any further, I think we should just talk about what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is. We'll say BJJ a lot. Can you describe it?
Yeah. When I got into it too, I really liked the idea of doing MMA. I watched a lot of MMA at the time. I thought it was super cool, but I didn't want to get punched or kicked. And if you watch the UFC, when they wrestle up and go to the ground and stuff, they're like, oh, doing jiu-jitsu. This guy's a black belt. This guy's a purple belt. Back in the day, it used to even be considered a big deal if somebody just kind of knew any jiu-jitsu at all. So I just was like, well, I don't want to get hit, so I can just do some of this stuff. And it's like wrestling if you allowed submission holds. So you're allowed to make people say uncle, make people tap out, you can choke people, you can stretch people's limbs and joints and twist them up and stuff like that. So it's just, yeah, it's wrestling, but you can make people tap out and give up.
So Cheryl's making a bunch of horrified faces as you described that, and I think we can add a little bit more color to that. But go ahead.
To ask. So I did come and see you, Coach, and it was amazing. I got to say, watching people grapple grapple. I had a hard time keeping track of whose limbs were whose, or I mean, I could see some people were more skillful than others, but how do you win? Like, is it literally you just get someone to say uncle?
Yeah, so that's a good question. In the gym, yeah, you get someone to tap out, and there's a few ways to do it. It can get confusing because you can win if you're on top or on bottom, which is kind of one of the things that makes it unique. Most other fighting styles, there's not as much of a way to play from underneath somebody else. So that can kind of make it confusing. Also, there's just a lot of like rolling around and movement. When two people train together, they call it rolling. Like, they don't say sparring as much in jiu-jitsu. At least a lot of times they say, hey, do you want to roll? So it just really looks like a couple people rolling around. But in tournaments, there are also points for different things. So different things are given different amount of points. And if the time expires and somebody hasn't given up or tapped out, there are different things that can happen where you can get points. So usually they'll assign a winner based on who has more points.
So someone literally has to give up
to win by a submission. Yeah.
So I'll see if I can kind of simplify the idea of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and then give a little bit of color to like the different ways you can do it and rule sets and competition, stuff like that. So grappling is when it's like, think the Olympics. So people familiar with Olympic sports, you've seen wrestling.
I have.
They put hands on each other, and in wrestling, they're getting points for takedowns, or they'll pin each other to the ground, and that's how you could win. So if I get your back flat on the ground, so that's my big object, and then game over, I win. The win condition in jiu-jitsu, the submission part of it is I put you in a position that is no longer tenable for you. And I can do that by basically choking you out, which is applying pressure to the sides of your neck so that you don't get blood flow and you would pass out if you don't tap. Or I can get you in a position where I'm holding a limb in a certain way that if I were to continue applying pressure, a joint would break. Right. So I would like tear your rotator cuff or break your elbow.
So people need to know their limits.
Yes.
Yeah. So like a saying in jiu-jitsu is tap early, tap often. So like in the training room, don't be a hero. If someone gets you in the position they've got you, don't try to white knuckle out of it because it's training, right? So it becomes, and when you do it, it becomes pretty apparent, like when you're screwed, like when they've got you, and then it's a friendly tap. And then the other part of that, competition-wise, there are some tournaments in which there are points assigned for like takedowns or achieving certain positions that are dominant. Some tournaments are submission only, which means there's a timer. If nobody taps, nobody wins. So it's like there's a lot of different ways to do jiu-jitsu, but in essence, it is what we call submission grappling.
So I have a question.
Yeah, that was a great way to put it.
Yeah. I have a couple questions for you. So as I've gotten to know you, as we've been preparing for this podcast, I know you to be a very gentle person. And so I'm just curious what appealed about this.
It doesn't feel it doesn't feel not gentle to me. I know that might sound kind of crazy, but it just doesn't. I don't know. It just feels like you're moving around with someone. You're just kind of riding the wave a little bit, riding the energy a little bit. You're just in there moving around with somebody. I mean, there's close contact and everything, but it can obviously feel rough. But I think everybody has a side to them where they have to get something out and have, some physicality with different things, whether you like to run or lift weights or, play basketball or volleyball or something. I think everybody has that dichotomy and has different parts of them that have to have that itch scratched. I think it appeals a lot because it's very honest, and no matter what happens, it's what happened. You go in, you either do well or you don't, or somewhere in between, and it just is what it is. And then you go back and you do it again, and you just try to get a little bit better every day at it.
I've been thinking about this a lot preparing for this podcast. It's like, you know how people get addicted to Rubik's Cubes?
No.
Well, there's a thing. Like, people solve Rubik's Cubes and they see how fast they can solve them, right? So people mix it up like crazy and they see how fast they can solve it. You've seen this?
No.
No. God, I forget you're not on the internet like everybody else. So you can understand how a person would like to use a Rubik's Cube and appreciate that puzzle.
I can imagine.
So it's like the person that you're contending with, you're grappling with, is presenting this ever-evolving Rubik's Cube, and you get to interact with it in a very tactile, physical way. So it's like all these constant inputs that you're contending with and then trying to achieve this goal. I think that part of it becomes really, really addictive because it's just like so engaging and everything melts away.
Yeah.
I just need Keenan as a translator. You just interview him. That's perfect. 2 times now.
I've been thinking about, well, also
That's
too,
really
like,
funny.
we'll provide a little bit of context here. You've been doing BJJ, you said, for how long?
Close to 20 years.
20 years. I've been doing Muay Thai, which is a striking art from Thailand, for like 6 years. I recently went to Elevate. That's how I met you. You were coaching there. I've been taking your classes and doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 3 months, something like that.
So what is it like to roll with Drew as a novice or an early learner?
It is, it's like this. So Drew is actually very gentle in a roll. So like you can go pretty hard with Drew, but you don't get the sense that he's going hard back. Does that make sense?
I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it.
He's also very experienced and intelligent with his game. So he's always a step ahead. So one thing I'll say is, like, if say you're in, you want to advance your position against Drew, it's like you see a door and it's cracked open, and as soon as you try to go through the door, it's slammed shut. Or it's like you think you could fit through and you just can't. So he's really good at like presenting, how would I say it? Like it's like you think you have these opportunities to choose where you're going to go, but you don't. Without realizing it, he's steering you right where he wants to trap you, and then he's got your neck.
So what's it like for you?
That's definitely what I'm trying to do a lot of the time. I want to do it for life. I want to train as long as I can. Physicality and strength and athleticism and all of that stuff diminishes with time. I feel like that's not sustainable. So I try to use as little of that as possible, because I always want to roll like I have to roll tomorrow. I may choose not to, but I always want, when I leave the gym for the day, I want to feel like I could do the same thing again the next day if I had to. And if it's not good enough, if I'm not skilled enough to win when somebody's being more physical with me or more athletic or stronger, then I just have to get better at the craft. It's kind of how I look at it.
It's funny too, because we were kind of warming up for this, right? This recording. And you said you went and lifted weights with some guys, and they were like kind of clowning you because they were telling you how weak you were, essentially.
Yeah. They were like, for how long you've trained, you are surprisingly not that strong.
But you have jiu-jitsu strength. So like also another thing about Drew is like, so you've got people that are like wrapping you up, right? So imagine like if someone was hugging you and you wanted to move their arms, you have this idea, like you could peel an arm off. When you go to peel one of Drew's arms off, it just feels like it's made out of wood. Like it's just locked into position. He has this like weird positional jiu-jitsu strength. It's very interesting. Yeah, it's uncanny almost.
This is reminding me of something we talked about in prep also, around how long you devoted to learning this. And you talked about, and I don't know the belt levels by heart, but you talked about basically spending a lot of time at a pretty intermediate level. And
long time. Yeah, most of my improvement, I think, has happened in the past 3 to 5 years, which is, I think, pretty unusual. I think most people have more of like a solid graph where the line is going up. I don't know. I really struggled with it for a long time. I struggled a lot with being a little bit more assertive and asserting physicality on people. Most people, you have to get people to chill out a little bit and kind of to use a ton of physicality and a ton of aggression and muscle and physical attributes. And I was kind of the opposite. I think maybe because I had done some other traditional martial arts before, I was like, no, I just need to do the technique perfectly and all this stuff. And I think I just got bullied, like, not with the negative connotation to it, but just like out physicaled, out muscled by people for a long time, because I was like, no, I have to do the technique perfect. And I was just trying to do everything perfect when probably earlier I should have just been a little bit more physical. But over a long enough timeline, now that I have gotten some of those traits and now that I have actually gotten the skill to kind of match the technique that I know, I think it's actually made me very skilled. So I kind of think I took a longer path to get there. But once it all finally came together in the past few years, I would say, I think it's like really come together.
Did you ever think of quitting?
Not really. I mean, there were definitely times I was surprised a little bit, maybe that I didn't ever feel like quitting, but I always just enjoyed the actual act of just rolling and getting out of my own head and not having a good, like, for me, it's just been the best way to not dwell on what's going on in the day, the anxieties that anybody may have day to day, all of that stuff. It just really gets me out of it. And even when I wasn't super good at it, I just always thought it was a fun and enjoyable thing to do. And I never seriously considered, like, I really haven't taken many breaks.
Something you said just really grabbed me a minute ago. You were talking about your relationship to technique and how you kept pushing, like you felt that was the way forward to get perfect. And what I know of you with your coaching technique, it is sort of the opposite. Can you talk a little bit? Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your approach to coaching?
Yeah, it's changed a lot in the past couple years. So recently I've started embracing like a lack of perfection and looking more in students for them to just have focus and intention. And if they have those things and they're trying, not trying to correct a whole lot of details in terms of you should grab right here or you should maybe do exactly this. I mean, if people ask me, I'll definitely give input on some of that stuff. But yeah, I've been really inspired by this type of coaching called the constraints-led approach within the past couple years. That's more about letting people discover things themselves, and you offer a lot of guidance and you sort of provide them the direction to travel in, and you give them a lot of why they're trying to do it, what they're trying to accomplish, maybe even when they're trying to accomplish it, but you stay more away from the how. There's less about how exactly to do it. And honestly, I think it would be great if the how worked really well. But in my experience, it doesn't work super well, at least with people that aren't already fairly skilled and advanced. With them, I think you can do more of, hey, maybe try doing it more like this. But it's just, there's a lot of studies that just show that people don't remember stuff that well when you just verbally tell them what to do. And if they drill it, in martial arts, drilling usually refers to somebody that cooperatively allows you to practice like an idealized version of a technique or a movement on them. If you have people drill a lot without resistance, when they go into a live resistant training environment, a lot of times those skills don't transfer very well. And this way that I'm doing it now, I feel like kind of bridges that a little bit more.
I think it'd be a good point now to describe how a jiu-jitsu class looks and operates in general, like what the setting is like, what the training is like, and then describe specifically how the drilling approach is done, and then maybe an example of how you would do constraints-led approach or CLA.
So an average class, I would say if it's 90 minutes long, a lot of classes when I was coming up used to be 90 minutes. You'd have like 20 minutes, maybe 15 to 20 minutes of people warming up in a traditional sense, running laps, jumping jacks, push-ups, burpees, that kind of thing, sit-ups. Then maybe they would get into some kind of rolling for just to break a sweat for 10-15 minutes. We'd have like King of the Hill and be like, all right, if you tap them out or pass their guard, you stay in the middle. And then we'd spend a lot of time just drilling an idealized version of a technique, like what I just talked about, cooperatively drilling and practicing with no resistance. I'm sort of laying there and letting you do the move and feel like the perfect way to do it. And we'd maybe do that for like an hour. And then for the last 15 minutes, we would maybe just, hey, let's just slap hands and let's just roll and we'll see what happens. And you maybe do like 15 minutes of that and you call it a night. What I do a little bit more, most of my classes are an hour long. We don't do any warm-ups. We get right into it. I just have people get loose doing the activity. So usually we do something where we start on the feet. Most of the stuff I do are training games. So instead of having a lot of moments of cooperative drilling without resistance, pretty much the entire class is going to be objective based. Person A is going to have a couple things that they're trying to do. Person B is going to have a couple things that they're trying to do. Usually those goals are in opposition. Sometimes both people have an objective where they can win. Sometimes one or the other can win and the other one can't win. If you can't win, you just have a goal that you're trying to do continuously the whole time. And then we probably just do a handful of those games and then some specific training at the end of class that's still live resistance and is maybe open up a little bit more to a more broad area of the game, but still related to something that we did. But very rarely are there moments where there are no resistance at all, or are we practicing some idealized or quote-unquote perfect move? Does that help explain a little bit?
I think so. I think we can do some like specific examples that are very simple. So in jiu-jitsu class, you're working in partners for the most part. So like the idealized version would be like if Drew went up to the front of the class, took somebody as an example, and did a 6-step process to go from standing to takedown to taking the back to getting your arm around somebody's neck, putting your hand in the right position, and then squeezing in a certain direction. And then we would do that, steps 1 through 6. The games thing, so like I'll talk about like being in your classes, like the games will be as simple as like a warm-up game. It's like we're standing up and you're trying to touch each other's legs without your legs getting touched. You can imagine that if I wanted to take somebody down to the ground, I would need to grab their leg. So we don't even go to the part where we grab their leg necessarily. We might just be trying to touch each other's legs. Later on, we might play a game where we try to, like it would kind of compound. So we
touch each other's legs and pick it up off the floor.
Boom. There you go. So now we've got like these like intentions that play off of each other.
Now start with the leg off the floor. Keep it off the floor as long as you can. Mm-hmm. Other person try to get your leg free. Get your leg on the floor. And then next time, get the leg off the floor, keep it off the floor, and put your partner down back on the floor. You know, use that leg that you have to put them on their hips. Other person still try to get free if you can. It just builds on itself.
And it gives you this opportunity for creativity, which is super fun. That's the part that I found addictive about that type of training is like the drill-led approach would be like, grab their leg here, bump your shoulder into them, elevate the foot, then you need to get them to hop. On the second hop, when you see that foot start to come up, bump that foot so that they fall down. And you're learning like one specific takedown where you have to get all these things correct to execute it. And then when you live roll, you might get a chance once every 10 rounds to actually get in that position. Whereas I might just be able to experiment and find a thing that's working really well for me. Or I might have an idea in my head and it's just not happening. So I'm like, the game itself is encouraging me in a different direction.
You shared with me a video before I went and saw you coach that talked about the mathematical reasoning behind this, that the amount of practice you get with this constraints-led approach is very different than if you drill something over and over again and then you rarely use it. The amount of time you get to apply it is very small. I'm curious, though, about the design of the games and what you're hoping for your students. I saw in your class, you clearly love it. I saw people playing and learning at the same time. What is it you hope? What do you hope the student experience is like?
A couple things. First off, even if somebody doesn't have high aspirations of becoming super skilled at the sport, if somebody just wants to come in and lose a few pounds, I feel like this style is still better for that because they're actually playing the whole time. They're moving the whole time. They're sweating the whole time. So nothing else, I feel like people are going to leave more tired than when they came in, which has, all the benefits of working out and all that. If they came in and just practiced some perfect move the whole time, they're not getting nearly as much exercise. So on the simplest level, I really like that dynamic to it a lot. But even if you're trying to take it a step further and develop more skill in the sport, I feel like to be skilled, you have to you have to do the thing that you're trying to get skilled at. And especially for people earlier on, I think they just have to play the game a little bit. That's kind of what I'm hoping to accomplish, is that they just get time in the game with some concepts to follow, some big picture stuff, maybe a bigger picture understanding of what our goals are that we're trying to accomplish, instead of trying to remember 1,000 different moves that each have half a dozen steps to them that they have to remember exactly right. I just think I'm trying to give people less of a class and more of a practice.
You clearly love coaching. What keeps bringing you back? What do you love about it?
Some of what I love about it now is it's still kind of new to me. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to coach this way. I'm sure there's a lot of growth I have left to do with it. One of my mentors, Brandon McCatherine, he used to always say, whenever you teach classes at a gym, people put 3 hats on you, whether you want them to or not. A mentor hat, an instructor hat, and a coach hat. And basically a mentor is, whether you like it or not, people are going to come up, they're going to ask advice on different things. Other people want you to show them certain moves, and that's kind of more of an instructor hat. They want you to teach them jiu-jitsu. And then coach is more like athletic performance. And Brandon always said most coaches are only good at one of those. Really good coaches are good at 2 of those, and almost nobody is good at all 3 of those things. And I was trying to think about which of those I was good at. And I was like, I feel like I'm a pretty good shoulder for people. I'm like not awful at the mentor stuff at all. I was like, I'm a pretty good jiu-jitsu teacher, instructor. I'm not a good coach. And so I just was like, I want to be better at being a coach. And then that is what led me towards some of the CLA stuff. And so I think it is new and shiny and kind of exciting in that way. But it also just helps me feel of service to people, and it makes me feel useful. And I just like sharing with people, and it makes me feel valued, and I feel like I'm just contributing to a part of a community, and all of that stuff just feels really good.
What do you mean you're not a good coach?
Now.
Oh, okay.
I think I am now. But at the time I heard this, Brandon said that to me back in like 2020, 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I had, obviously I had taught classes before, and I thought I was decent at teaching, but at that point I didn't really know anything about coaching. So most of the coaching advancements I've had have really happened in the past, 3 years.
Do you have advice for people who would like to become good coaches? What's the most important lesson about coaching that you've learned?
I think just trying to learn about it. At least in our field, I think most people that do jiu-jitsu, they get a black belt and they go, oh, I'm good at this thing now. I obviously am going to be good at explaining to other people how to do it or help other people get better at it. And it's a different skill set. Being good at something isn't the same skill set as helping other people get good at something. So I think instead of having a super ego about having a black belt and being like, oh, I know all this stuff now, you have to just realize, okay, if I want to be a coach, I have to learn how to be a coach. It's a whole new skill set, a whole new journey that I have to get into and embrace. And I've just tried to consider myself, hey, I'm a white belt. I was a white belt in coaching. Now I don't feel like a white belt in coaching anymore.
I appreciate that as a coach. So that's my living, right? It's fitness. And I do a lot of coaching. I like that idea of the 3 hats. The best player is not going to be the best coach, because a lot of times the people who are really talented and stuff comes easy. They don't necessarily know how to help somebody else learn it. I want to come back to a couple of things you said. You mentioned service. God, there's 2 things you said. One was service, and I can't remember what the other part of it was.
I'll just talk about the service thing for a second, and I'll give you a chance to think as well. When I think of the traits I start to develop when I think too much about myself and what I want, I don't like as much the person that I am when I get overly concerned with those things. And I don't know if it's because I was in treatment. I mean, again, that was 20 years ago, but I just feel better about myself, and I like the person that I am more when I'm focused more on sort of doing things for the people around me, making my world larger a little bit, extending the things that I care about, expanding the sphere outside myself of the things that I care about, and just trying to make sure that I'm doing things for other people. And yeah, I mean, that makes me feel good too. But I think the thing that I have to offer the most is probably this. I mean, I'm sure I could help people with other stuff too here or there, but probably not in like a professional capacity. And it fills my own cup up to fill other people's cup, basically.
The two words I was trying to connect in my head were service and mentor, because you mentioned those three hats, and I see the mentor side of you a lot. So like listening to your podcast, which I'll plug now, Neon Belly, Neon, like the sign, Neon Belly. Listening to that, you do these little 15-minute podcasts where you kind of drop wisdom, and it is very much like it's like wisdom from somebody you said this in our prep session, from somebody who's a little bit further down the path. And I think you're really, really good at that mentoring aspect of it. Maybe naturally. Maybe that's something you've worked on. I don't know. Is it?
I don't know if I've really specifically worked on it, but I agree. I think I'm pretty decent at it. I'm pretty comfortable being in that role.
When you see a beginner walk through the door for one of your classes, what do you think?
It's funny you say that, because I actually don't like teaching beginners as much as I like people that like have a little bit of experience already. But excited at the possibility of someone catching a spark for it and really being into it. One thing that I think is really funny or interesting is trying to think about who is going to stay in it and who's not, because a lot of times it's really surprising. Sometimes people that you think are going to be there all the time, like, they're not there a year later, and people that you think there's no way this person will be back next month, they're there like 5-6 years later. You look up and they're still there. So that part of it's really cool.
Do you have a story of, or can you think of a moment where you were coaching someone and you learned something really surprising, maybe about them or yourself?
I think sometimes you learn what people's limits are a little bit. Sometimes you see how people can like dig down and really push themselves. I think that's really cool. You can see people tap into like a part of themselves that maybe they didn't realize was there. There are other times where you coach people and they just totally fall apart. And sometimes, that's interesting too.
What does that look like?
You could just see people panic sometimes, or they get frustrated. You see people give up a lot. All that's a part of the process, though. And I think that that's super normal, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like an awful thing, but it's just interesting to see sometimes.
There's plenty of moments, because the tapping thing, right? So the submission part of it, it's a little escape lever, or what do you call it? Escape?
Yeah.
Button. Hatch. Yeah, thank you. It's an escape hatch that you can pull whenever you want to. And sometimes, and I don't think there's any shame in it in the training room especially, sometimes people tap to pressure. So like the name of your podcast is a play on words. Neon Belly it's a position. So like if you imagine you're on the ground, you've been taken down to the ground, someone's in top position, they get on your side and they slide their knee on top of your belly to hold you down. And then they're fighting your hands, right? So you're contending for that. And then they just put more and more and more pressure on their knee. And it's in your diaphragm and your gut, and your breathing gets more shallow, and you're there for 30 seconds. It's a long time. So like you might tap to that because you feel like you can't breathe. And there's these sort of, that's another thing that gets addictive about this, is that there's sort of these like checkpoints you pass through. And then once you overcome them, it's like there's a huge feeling of growth. So like you tap to pressure, which is like, dang, like basically somebody just smushed me and made me quit. That's it. No technique. I wasn't really in trouble. But then the next time you feel that kind of pressure and you go like, I'm okay. And you just control your breathing and you're there. And then you wait the 30 seconds out and then get to a new position. That feels like such a big win, because you're like, I'm not the guy who taps to pressure. Yeah, there's certain unwritten rules, which you could argue some of them might be a little bit toxic. I mean, I always tell people they're allowed to tap, and you should always tap if you're ever uncomfortable. For any reason, you're always allowed to tap. But there are certain things where if you're like in a position and someone's literal weight is on you and they aren't actually like squeezing your neck or twisting your arm or anything,
there's sort of an old school belief of like you should never just tap to someone's weight just being on you. You should always find a way to just kind of breathe and relax and find your way to survive through that. But early on, a lot of people tap to just physical weight being on top of them all the time.
Or pain compliance. Like there's some positions that just hurt. You're not really in danger.
They're not really
going to
injure
breaking.
you. Yeah, you're not really going to get injured, but it's just uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I just learned something really beautiful about this sport. I could see where it could go too far, or where it, as you said, it could be toxic in some environments, but I didn't see that at your gym. What I saw was people really being amazing to each other.
Good culture.
It was as fun to watch the rolling as it was to hear the chatter in between. And what I realized listening to you both talk is that this sport trains perseverance.
Yeah.
100%.
Most definitely.
100%. Yeah.
So I'm curious to ask both of you, what do you say to someone who you see in their eyes that they're giving up?
Actually, I'm curious to hear what Keenan says first.
Ooh. So in my Muay Thai life, I've coached people before. So I'll speak to that versus I'll speak to like from a coach's perspective and then from like a competitor perspective. So from the coach perspective, I'm trying to get them to that line where I see that they want to quit and I'm going to back off a little bit and let them get a little win. Right? Or like if they got their ass kicked last round, next round, I'm going to dial way back, let them get some wins so that they get that feeling of like, okay, like I'm not just going to get crushed constantly. If I'm like in a competitive mode with somebody, so this is not like coach to pupil, this is like me, like peer to peer. That's like blood in the water. It's like, okay, now it's time to put the pressure on. If they're already starting to quit a little bit, now I'm dialing up the heat more and more and more and more and more. And that is,
I think if I'm coaching somebody and I see someone quitting, I think I don't necessarily try to encourage them not to, depending on how long they've trained. I think you have to have those moments where you quit and give up, and just the idea is to increase the threshold at which you quit. So, you know, just let's keep working on extending it to where the input to make you quit is going to need to be more and more. I've rolled with people that are like world-class grapplers and had moments where I like mentally kind of quit and gave up. So it happens all across the spectrum. But, you know, you got to just know that some of that's a big social skill of it too. Like maybe you do really want to tell someone they need to just toughen up a little bit, but you just have to when to say that, how to say it. But inherently seeing people quit isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I do want to see an increasing that threshold of what they're able to kind of take before they quit.
And there's that thing of like, it's quitting. Yeah. But I think maybe a better way to look at it is finding their limit.
Yeah.
And the limit has to be pushed to increase your threshold.
Because I don't think of quitting as tapping. I don't know if you meant like tapping out.
No,
I mean like mentally giving up.
Like you see on their face that
they've had enough.
Despair.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's with a sport or with a session or whatever.
It usually involves the clock. Because, you know, we got a clock doing rounds on the wall. And if you're just dead tired and you're like, God, I don't know if I can mentally and physically keep this up. And then you look at the clock and it's like still half the round to go. That's when it's like, oh.
Fatigue is definitely the thing that makes people quit more than any kind of like physical discomfort.
I'm talking more, I mean, I know this from my own athletic pursuits, that where my head is actually way more important than how tired I am or if I've eaten. I mean, those things are all important. But simply believing, I can lift an awful lot more weight if I believe, even if I tell myself I believe. Then if I have a moment of doubt, I have to put the bar down and start again.
Totally.
This is actually a trick to coaching. As a coach, I can see the matrix when it comes to progression. Like with my clients, like they feel like they're stagnating. They feel like they're sliding back. I can see through and go, wait, no, like here's all the progress you've made, and then break that down and show it to them very clearly. Like that's my skill as a coach, and that's my job as a coach. I think in jiu-jitsu, one of the tricks is setting intentions as well as finding little tiny wins. So like in jiu-jitsu, I roll with a lot of people who are way better than me. Some of these people are way better and bigger than me. And I'm just getting crushed, right, for 5 minutes at a time. But if I set my intention to set myself up for wins, I'm winning the whole time. For instance, if I'm in a bad position, but I hear the other person breathing harder than me, I'm winning. Even if I get tapped out in the end, that's a little win for me. So I set myself up with all these little tiny wins. And then in aggregate, I'm just building skills and increasing my threshold.
Dear listeners, we want to let you know how much we appreciate you listening to the Fora podcast. We're learning and evolving with every episode that we record and produce. This would not be possible without your support and especially your feedback. We ask that you take advantage of the comment sections in both Spotify and YouTube to let us know what you loved and what we could do better. Now, let's step back into the Fora.
I have a hard question for both of you. You're talking about jiu-jitsu, but there are life lessons here. What do you take off the mat into your life from that?
I think a lot of patience and perseverance, and to be good at anything, you have to do it a lot of the time for a long time, pretty much, and just trying to take a step back, and anything that might feel like a plateau, if you look back far enough, like if you scale the stock market graph out, it keeps trending upwards. So I think trying to look at things like that, little setbacks that I might feel day to day, I try to just take a deep breath and think on a bigger scale of time. It's taken me almost 20 years to get where I am now with this. If I just give anything more time, I feel like I never lose. I feel like I just ran out of time, So as long as there's still time for anything, I feel like I'm going to get a win out of it. I just keep leaning on it, and eventually I'm going to fall through and figure out the issue.
Couple things that are just like that comes exactly. It's so interesting you saying that's applying to life, because that's exactly the kind of stuff you talk about in class when you're coaching. You'll say cook them a lot. So get somebody in a position, it seems like you're stalled out, you got a little bit of advantage, just wait, keep a little bit of pressure, like you said, just lean on them a little bit, cook them, wait for them to make a bad move, and that's where you go. And like for you, it's like wait for the door to open, you fall right through it as long as you're leaning on it. So that idea of just the patience, maybe martial arts has taught me some of that from my history with it, but I think you've taught me more of that in relation to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu than the art itself. Like that's specific to your way of coaching.
Yeah, I feel like if you you're just doing moves on a person. Like that's not practicing the art. You're just doing moves on a person if you're trying to force all this stuff. But if you just get in the flow state and just lean and just kind of let them decide how they want to lose, that's practicing the art to me.
It's funny. That's so metal. Let them decide how they want to lose, right?
Yeah.
It's funny too.
I don't want to do all that work.
It sounds like,
tell me how you want. That's cool. Like I just want to win. I don't care how.
It's so funny because like you're such a like genuine person, like laid back, but then it's like this aggressive, cocky side, but you're just presenting it in just the most chill, laid back way. Does that, what I'm saying? Are you picking up on that?
You gave me the perfect segue to, can I take us in a slightly different direction?
Go ahead. Yeah, please.
Perfect. Drew, when I was, listening to the prep recording that we made and just thinking of my experience watching you teach, the word that comes to mind for me is confidence. You have a tremendous confidence, and I see it in your grappling. I'm trying to use all the right words.
Yeah, it's perfect.
But I also think about what you shared with us about your life and some unusual choices that you've made. Checking yourself into treatment at age 20. I don't know exactly what the year was, but when you just left everything behind and went and took care of your mother who was ill. I mean, you very decisively made some decisions that required a great deal of confidence that honestly was way beyond your years as you describe it, or even how you describe yourself. And I just want to know what is the source of that confidence?
I don't know. That's a good question. I just think those things just felt like the thing that I kind of had to do in the moment. I didn't really think of another option, to be honest. That's maybe not like a super cool answer, but I definitely think I know myself super well. I've done a lot of work on myself going through that experience early on. I just think I'm really comfortable with myself and know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And I think anytime you know yourself really well and you're just kind of comfortable with your flaws and strengths and all that stuff, it's going to make you feel pretty confident and secure with who you are. If you just have experiences and you are just always trying to learn from things, I think it's going to make you feel pretty secure with a lot of choices that you have to make.
Yeah, I've heard you say before, service is your true north. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if one of those experiences out of the gym, your choice to check yourself into treatment at such a young age, or maybe more recently with your mom, how did you make those decisions? Or maybe pick one and maybe share a little bit about it.
With my mom, I'm an only child. I don't have any siblings. My parents did a lot to give me the best life that they could. And I feel like that's part of the burden. I don't mean it in a negative way, but part of the burden of that is giving back, and just trying to do what you can for people that love you and care about you, and just doing the kind. I just think it's the right thing to do. I can't imagine just, being elsewhere and kind of leaving my mom alone to deal with some of that stuff. In the rehab treatment case, I just knew it was just kind of more logical. I didn't even think it was necessarily like a super brave or courageous thing, but I just knew that I wasn't gonna be able to stop taking pain pills on my own, and that I would need help to do that, and that the only place that could help me do that was somebody that was a professional at that. So yeah.
I was just thinking about this kind of coming full circle. It's like that true north thing that you said. It's like an intention. It's like it seems like we're using the term confidence. You have confidence in your bearing, confidence in what's important to you and doing what's right. So then if it feels like you're doing what's right, you're like, well, I'll just do that.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like intention based. It's constraints led.
Yeah, I actually heard someone say recently, they were like, if you have a mission, or if you have a code, that you don't need a lot of motivation, or that you shouldn't need a lot of motivation if you have a purpose. And that kind of resonated with me a little bit. I was like, yeah, I feel like I have things that are important to me, and things that I value, and things that I think I should do, and a bigger purpose. And I don't need a whole lot of little things to motivate. But I don't know. I thought that was cool. If you just have like a mission statement that's important to you, you shouldn't really need a lot else to keep you going through stuff. And I kind of agree with that.
I've heard that like a Jocko Willink thing is like, if you have discipline, you don't need motivation, because motivation runs out. But
that's true.
Discipline, it's like if you know you do the thing, you always do it because you're disciplined about it. And I think that, the thing that you ideally would set that up around your values, I guess.
We live in an uncertain world, though. There takes a certain amount of conviction to do what you know is right, even if it's unconventional. I'm just curious about, do you have faith that if you do the right thing, that it's going to just work out somehow? I do. I'm pretty optimistic for the most part. I think that if you, again, this guy, Brandon McCatherine, one of my big mentors, he's always talking about trying to make sure other people have more out of the exchange than he gets. And he's like, I don't mean this to sound too transactional, but let's say me and Keenan, there's 100 points of good stuff between the two of us that we can have at any given time. If I make sure Keenan is always getting 55, 60% out of the 100%, in aggregate,
things are going to work out well for me. If I'm giving to other people for the most part, I think I'm going to get that back. If I'm making sure other people are fed and their cups are full and all that stuff. And every now and then somebody will burn you and you'll get taken advantage of by people every now and then. But for the most part, if you make sure other people are content and happy and benefiting from you more than you're benefiting from them, I think that's just a better way to go through life. That resonates with me a whole lot, for sure.
It's like a game theory thing.
Yeah, and
right?
It's not, and like, I guess you could spin it as maybe feeling like selfish, like, oh, are you just doing things for other people so that you get something back? I don't really think of it that way, but
no, I think it's like a stance of just like, if I give, if you put good things out in the world, it seems like good things come back, and I think that's largely because of how we're social animals. So like, people are they want to pay back what you give to them, whether it's good or bad. Like it's just sort of our natural instinct, right? Like you can do these social experiments where it's, if you compliment a stranger, they'll give you the exact same compliment back. Hey, I like that shirt. And they're like, oh, I like your shirt.
That's
right?
True.
We just naturally want to pay back what somebody's given to us. And I think if you put out good vibes and do good actions, that's generally what you get back.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think so. But one thing I will say watching you coach is that you are a source of joy in the room.
That's very sweet. Thank you.
Just a lot of positive energy. And I see that reflected back in the faces of your students.
Talking about like a culture thing too. Like what Cheryl, you mentioned this, you brought this up, was you were rolling with somebody at the gym, I believe at Aspen.
Mm-hmm.
Or you weren't rolling, you were instructing in a class and you were showing a position.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, hey, I'm going to put you in this position. I'm going to be leaning on your face a little bit. It's going to be a little uncomfortable, but I'm not going to do it for too long. Then you demonstrated what Jean did do, and she was fine.
Yeah, you said it's going to suck, but it's going to be over quick. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go, right? So like even that, just in front of everybody who's in the room, you're just being considerate to somebody. Where like I've been in rooms before where the coach like purposefully will like full throttle a move to show how cool the move is.
I've seen that too.
And that sucks. Like you're like, well, you didn't need, so like in Muay Thai, I kick at people. So you didn't need to sweep him and throw him down that hard. Like that sucks. It's like now he's got to come back and train, and he's like rubbing his back. So it's just like you're just establishing and developing a culture because you're in a position where you have a lot of influence in that area of like a very cool, productive, and fun to be in culture, which isn't always the case. You know, and you could extend this beyond a martial arts room. I mean, high school coaches have the opportunity to do this, you know, really anywhere, any kind of organizing thing.
Yeah, I think it's super important with anything that involves a hierarchy. You know, 'cause everybody naturally, you can try things to make things less hierarchical, but people are always going to put some people up on it. And if you're a coach, you're always going to be in more of that position. And I think it's super important to try to disarm as much of that as you can, because like the reverence for people at the top and, oh, I'll do anything you say because you're in charge of everything. That's how you end up with like cultish behavior and abuse and grooming and just like weird stuff like that. And I think just trying to literally every day as much as possible do as much to negate. Like I don't let people call me professor. People call me coach. I like that, but I had a couple of people call me professor, which like some people in Brazil, I guess professor just means like teacher, so it sounds less pretentious in Brazil. But over here it's kind of like, don't call me professor. I don't want to be the person at the top that's like in charge of all you guys. I'm just like one of you guys too. I'm just the one that you want running the class. Like that's how I think of it.
Professor is like the Brazilian Portuguese version of sensei, right? Or like master. It does sound weird.
Yeah,
like
we're into that. Some people want the discipline thing, which I'm not as big on, but whatever.
Anyway,
all right, y'all. I'm trying to think of like a very clever way to pivot to your love of animals, and I'm like coming up with nothing. But I don't want to wrap without talking about that, because I know you just love animals, and that's just a beautiful part of your personality.
I wish our listeners could see his face, because he's like lighting up.
Yeah.
Like
lighting up because my girlfriend on Saturday night, she took her nieces to this farm in Chapel Hill where they have these goats and they have a movie night, and the goats just cuddled up with them, and it was like really, really cute. Yeah.
Is it Celebrity Dairy? Oh,
It's called Spring Haven Farms.
Oh my
it's in
gosh.
Chapel Hill.
We'll put it in the show notes.
They have baby goats out there right now.
I want to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Field trip.
just really like animals. I don't really do any service work or anything right now. I would maybe like to, if I get some more free time, maybe do some volunteer stuff. My girlfriend and I, we've talked about like maybe fostering animals temporarily until they can get like a permanent home. But yeah, I really do love animals. We take a lot of trips for my birthday last year. She got me a thing where I got to hang out with the penguin for a day in Myrtle Beach, and we went to see some Highland cows in February. We went to see some possums last month in Richmond.
What do you do with a penguin?
So I got to hang out in the room with him. I got to do a laser pointer with him. He painted me some stuff. So they put like paint on the floor, and he walked through the paint and his little feet.
Amazing.
You got a little penguin painting?
Yeah, I have it framed at home.
That's amazing.
I'm going to remember really all this stuff.
Actually, I took a spider out of the gym yesterday. A spider was on the mat near some people. I got him out safely. Didn't step on him.
I do the same thing. I have a closing question.
Sure.
I know that you said you're working really hard in the gym. Like this is the first year that you're really working to this extent as a coach. And I'm just curious, like where you imagine you'll be in 10 years. Like when you think about 10 years out, what comes to mind?
I kind of want to be well known in the sport as being a really good coach. I think it's possible. I think it's possible to have more of a presence. I would like to have students that have their students that are good, and I have a lot that I want to work towards in that regard.
I'm curious what that looks like. You mentioned the students that have your students, so you're talking about training people up to be very good at both jiu-jitsu and coaching, and then them having people they work under. Is there another part of that, like that you would want to see for yourself, as far as like if 10 years from now I was like, I trained with Drew Foster, and people would be like, oh, he's the guy that what?
Yeah, I haven't thought about it as much exactly what that would look like. I feel kind of embarrassed that I don't have a cooler answer for that, but I definitely wanted just be like, he's someone that can for sure make you better no matter who you are, no matter where you are, beginner or whether you're really skilled. That's about the most I've fleshed it out right now. But yeah, I would like to have like a little squad of people that are well known for being really good.
I foresee that happening.
I hope so.
I'll try to be one of those people. We'll see.
I think you have a good shot.
I'll do it for the dads. The 30-year-olds who are going to start jiu-jitsu.
Representing the dads.
Well, I have this thing. You've heard of cauliflower ear, right? It's like the universal signal that you're a badass, you know? No?
Really?
No, so when you grapple, do you know what cauliflower ear is?
Yes.
When you grapple, so for our listeners who don't, when you grapple, your ears just get in the way and they get rubbed and then they get filled with fluid and it calcifies. So you see somebody with cauliflower, you're like, oh, that guy, like, you know, knows what he's doing. He could handle you, whether he was a wrestler or jiu-jitsu fighter or whatever. I have 2 daughters. They're 3 and 9. I'm 3 and 9 months old. So in 10 years, I'm hoping to have like some fairly gnarly cauliflower ear to deter teenage boys.
That's
I like
funny.
that.
Shaved head, goatee, cauliflower ear.
I think it's going to work.
You know what I'm saying? Just like as an outward signal not to mess with my daughter.
There's a bunch of like 5-year-old to 1-year-old boys out there who don't know what they're up against.
But they don't. I'm going to kick their asses.
Trembling in fear. They should be.
They should be.
Absolutely. So I'll be able to thank you, Drew Foster, for that.
Awesome.
For my skills at beating up teenage boys.
You don't have to actually beat them up. You just have to be scary.
Hopefully not. You never know. Yeah. Wrap it up. All right, cool. Drew, so you have some projects you work on, your podcast, you have instructionals, you have social media. Tell us where to find all that stuff.
I do, yeah. I'm on Instagram at Drew Darce. I have a podcast that you mentioned, Neon Belly. It hasn't been pretty active in a while since I've started coaching as much as I do right now, but there's a pretty extensive backlog of episodes on there. It's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and everywhere that podcasts are. Yeah.
What about your instructionals?
I have a couple instructionals at darcedynamics.com, DARCE dynamics.com. I have 2 on there right now. I have like 3 other 3 others that I've filmed that I need to work on getting up there. But yeah, I'm out there in a few places. If you follow jiu-jitsu at all, check out PGF, Professional Grappling Federation. I'm the chief of staff for them. We have an event in Vegas that kicks off next Wednesday. Should be pretty fun. It's going to be like a 6-week-long event, like Monday Night Football, but on Wednesday nights in jiu-jitsu, and that's going to be fun.
Oh, dang. Are you going to be traveling to Vegas for that?
Yes. I don't know if I'll be out there every week this season, but I'll be out there probably most of the weeks.
Very cool. Well, you heard him. Check him out. Check out his stuff. If you have an interest in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and mixed martial arts in general, check out Elevate MMA, where Drew coaches in Durham, if you're in Durham. Otherwise, just do a quick Google search and see what you find.
Yeah.
Get out there and try it. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being here.